Cheers and welcome into another episode of Implicit Bias. I am your host, Kevon Bordelon. We are about to start solving the problems of the world one weekly whiskey at a time. And again, man, there's a lot to do in the next, and I'm going to say 30 plus days. We'll explain that later on the show. But man, 30 plus days, there's a lot to do in the next 30 plus days. I mean, if you think about it, we've got poor people in North Carolina only getting $750 a person. We've got the Bank of America who's glitching, showing people's balances at zero as the fiat dollar fades into the oblivion of inflation. We've got MSNBC admitting on camera that they are doing everything they can to help one particular candidate win an election. I mean, you know, we've been unburdened by what has been. At least Lizzo's got her issues figured out. But the first part of solving the problems of the world, to that credit, is admitting it, right? Anyway, there's significant work to do, and we've got to do more than what many times we do here on the show, which is talk. We've actually got to do it. So words without works, I guess you could say, actually just mean nothing. So you see, running our mouths, which is kind of what we do here on Implicit Bias, that's part of the work. That's part of our work, actually. And I'll get to that in a minute. But maybe it's not completely enough. We actually have to live those words. Now, what you may not know is that the crew that's here in the Top Secret Podcast Lair all the time, the crew that has been with us forever, that crew, and I'm speaking for them, not necessarily about myself, they do exactly that. They don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk. The latest example of that was actually highlighted on the CBS National News earlier this week. The Rustic Renegade, who's here in the TSPL, we'll hear from him in just a few minutes. We know him as Caleb. He's part of a local movement that is hopefully growing to be a national movement. See, the CBS National News featured Caleb Morse, the Caleb Morse, and the Armory Project, which are working together, not just talking the talk of willing the good of other for the sake of other, but walk the walk by putting their business on the line to help their fellow man. We'll let him tell you exactly how and what all that looks like as we discuss this week's show. But the point is here, he puts the sentiments into words, but he also puts those sentiments into the works. Now, he's not the only member of the Top Secret Podcast Lair crew that is Implicit Bias who practices what they preach. Look, we've seen Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist support local causes ad infinitum. We've seen Grant Galatas support young couples getting ready to take that next step in their lives. I've seen Short Poor Burley Pellerin active in supporting his political beliefs. The list goes on and on and on. After all, Christians, Catholics, we're all told that we must actually act on our words, which, if we're doing it right, means that we have to act out what we believe. We have to actually act out our faith. James 2:14 reminds us, "What does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith, but does not have works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, 'Depart in peace, be warmed and filled,' but you do not give them the things which they are needed for the body, what does it profit? Thus also by itself, if it does not have works, it's dead." Now, does that mean we have to be perfect in our works? No, none of us are perfect. If it did, every single one of us would be in big time trouble. After all, we're all trying to be Christian. Only one of us was perfect, and he's not back yet. The rest of us, however, we're all broken, imperfect, carbon-based life forms. But that is why it's so important to not just speak or talk good words. See, if we're going to be imperfect, that means that we have to make the most of our opportunities to actually do good things. This show, we hope to bring you as much truth as we can. We'll cite sources. I'm sure we're imperfect, but that's okay. I guarantee most of what you get here is ahead of the news curve by, good measure. We'll also try to do good things by benefiting local charities. We try to keep you entertained. After all, if we can't have fun solving the problems of the world, well, when can we have fun? We hope to bring you some insight with regards to the spirits that you'll taste and hopefully encounter in October. No, we're not referencing Halloween. We're referencing your weekly whiskey. We hope you'll take this journey with us. We hope that you'll find us on X, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Insta. We hope you'll enjoy us, and we hope that you'll share in our implicit bias. All we asked for were sharks with freaking laser beams, people. Sharks with freaking laser beams. It's all we want on this week's episode of Implicit Bias. Well, I'm sure we can talk about it. We might not get all of it. But let me welcome you back into the Top Secret Podcast lair. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon, and we have got a crew here for you this week that is definitely going to make hour one fun. But hour two, might just go to dangerous. Let's start with the crew here in the TSPL, and we'll start at the bar for this week. We'll start with Renee Girard, Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. Renee, it's funny because you were only gone for 1 week, but it felt like eternity that you weren't here by just being out last week.
No, it's been longer than that.
See? I told you it felt like longer.
You were hoping it was longer.
It felt good.
Yeah, I know. You missed me, though.
We did miss you, Renee. We did miss you. It's great to have you back. I'm looking forward to hearing what stogies you've got for the month of October as we get to porch sitting weather, because it's almost there.
It's it's here. Yep. It's here. I've been on the porch for the last 4 days.
There's a really bad joke there, and I'm not going to go there. Anyway, let's also go to our other person at the bar. He is Brian Harmon, who you don't quite have a nickname for Brian just yet, but we'll get there. We'll get there. So, Brian, it's a pleasure to have you back. You're going to walk out of your own accord from the Top Secret Podcast lair this time?
That's the plan, but like you said, second hour, we'll wait and see.
It was dangerous for you last time, right?
It was. My wife's probably going to listen, so let's just drop it.
Okay, yeah, we'll drop that. All right. Speaking of people listening in, we know there's probably a lot of people listening in because there is a very specific member of the crew here in the TSPL that got a ton of pub in the last week. He's Walker Griffon, who's now got his own radio show. Walker, how are you? And nobody can see you, which is better.
I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Hey, we're actually glad that you made it here this week before, an hour before we were supposed to start or an hour after we were supposed to start. We're glad you were close.
Oh, I'm glad I was close as well.
Yeah. All right, so now let's go to the one that everybody really has heard about. He is, we call him the Tan, the Myth, the Legend. He is the Rustic Renegade. He is Caleb Morse. Caleb, it's great to have you back here this week.
Phenomenal to be back. I don't think everyone's heard of me, like maybe 12 people.
Well, dude, you were on CBS National News this week. I mean, it's not like you were just on local Lafayette, Louisiana, not even just New Orleans. You were on the national news for the Armory Project, and we'll talk about that in a minute, kind of after we get to the weekly whiskey. But I know that you've been busy, had to have been busy because of that story.
We, the emails, the Facebook messages, the Instagram messages, I even downloaded TikTok again, just so I could see some of the stuff on there. But don't worry, I give myself a false name. It's not really me.
I was about to say, I mean, I thought we were going to have to get a Catholic priest in here and exorcise TikTok from you again.
Oh, man. I went through and I opened it up and I was like, profile. And it's like, do you know all these people? No. John Smith. That's me.
All right, so let's get to our weekly whiskey. For those out there who want to chime in, who want to see what we're drinking this week, man, our weekly whiskey, as we go down the Ghostwood rabbit hole. This out of Bozeman, Missouri, and we actually sampled their blended bourbon offering last week. If you want to find that, you can catch that on the podcast, which is on our website, www.implicitbiasradio.com, or you can find it on all of our socials. It's on X, it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, it's on Insta by now. Go find it. Please like and subscribe. It helps the show, but you can find that review there.
Might I interject real quick?
Absolutely.
Montana.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did I say?
Missouri.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
No, Bozeman, Montana.
I've been to a few places in Missouri, Fort Leonard Wood being one of them, and I'd rather go to Montana.
My whole thing was it's just me getting a little gray in the hair, right? I meant to say Montana because I do know that Bozeman is in Montana. I mean, after the TV show, everybody knows Bozeman is in Montana. I just misspoke.
A little gray?
A little gray. Is that like saying you're a little bald, Renee?
Right.
Did you just quote?
You're lucky it's turning gray and not loose like mine.
Yeah.
Did you just quote the Democratic vice president nominee?
I'm a knucklehead. What can I say? I'm a knucklehead. Yeah. Yeah. I was at the Kennedy assassination. I was there. I'm a knucklehead. I misspoke. I wasn't born till 9 years later. I'm just a knucklehead. Moron. All right. So let's get to our weekly whiskey tasting as we start to figure out where this will sit. So this is the Ghostwood Barrel Proof offering. You can see it on the bar. Our guys sitting at the bar actually have it. It's sitting right there in the middle. Caleb is going to put reviews into the Implicit Bias Whiskey Tasting Journal, which you can get on Amazon. And we are going to start to find out what we think about this particular offering. Let's start at the bar, since we are starting at the bar with lots of things apparently on this show. So who wants to start? Renee, Brian?
Yeah, I'll start.
Shocker.
Yeah. You asked.
I did.
Spice,
Okay.
caramel.
Keep poking the bear, Renee.
Go ahead.
Keep poking the
Go
bear.
ahead.
No,
Yeah.
we've been down this rabbit hole. Our viewers and listeners know.
No. I have proof. I followed your own advice. I didn't believe you. So I looked it up. I
did.
researched it.
And you sent it over.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I found an even better source. Your favorite source that you quote.
Wikipedia.
Nope. The Oxford English Dictionary. And not only that, they have audio on how to pronounce it.
Caramel, since there's two A's.
This is the British English version.
I love it. He's trying to actually put this through the mic.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
No.
amazed you know how to work a phone, Renee.
Caramel.
Thank you. It just pronounced it my way. Caramel.
Okay.
Caramel.
Wait, stop. That's the first audio British English. You know what the first audio American English is?
Caramel.
In other words, the Americans have bastardized the correct way to say it. What do we speak, Renee? We speak English. We got it from where? From England, which means that we made our own really bad version of it in a lot of ways.
No, that means that you identify as British. I'm an American.
Okay, you know what? It does not surprise me that you identify with the language of Ebonics. So congratulations. All right, so back to your reflection on the whiskey, because that's where this whole thing started. Because there's not a lot of caramel in this to me.
Some, but I had to
get a
bring
little.
that up just so I could jerk your chain. The things we go through to prove a point. It's a good whiskey. It's a little hot, but letting it sit, airing a little bit, oxygenate a little bit, very good. I definitely can get in trouble with this one, which is good. I'm glad you told me you had other whiskeys to do tonight, because now I know I can't drink too much of this
What
one.
is the proof on this? I didn't catch the proof on the bottle.
114.
Yeah,
114?
114. We have to watch Renee
Yeah.
on this because last time Renee had a lot of fun with us. He went to the hospital.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Yeah, we've
gotta
tried
be
to kill
careful.
Renee.
why'd you get
More
nervous,
than
Brian?
once.
I'm about to say,
got-
at least 2 times we've tried to kill him. So,
You got very nervous all of a sudden.
No, I just thought my last time was rough, but no hospitalization.
Yeah,
No.
it was bad.
All right, Brian, what do you think of this particular whiskey?
I pick it up on the spice that Renee mentioned. I like it. I'm a broken record every time I come on here. I can't articulate my taste. I just don't have the palate you guys do. I can tell you what I like and what I don't like. Just like Renee said, some bottles, the first taste is better than the second taste. This one, the first taste was terrible. I didn't like it. I didn't think I was going to continue to drink it, but it definitely got better as it sat. It just needed to sit for a minute.
Got a little necky for you is what I'm
the
thinking.
neck. I've heard people call it the neck pours. Sometimes, I mean, hell, I've had Booker Reserve neck pours that were out of this world, and thinking I had something special, and then those bottles still sit on my bar. But all in all, it's good. I like it. I know I'm going to reserve, or I'll hold off on what I think.
Yeah, we'll do the
code.
ratings
Yeah.
and all that in a few minutes.
But all in all, I like it, especially from this obscure city in Missouri. I mean, to think that these guys are making that's a knock at you. I know it's Montana.
I was just ignoring you. It's okay.
it
I'm
is-
u-
the
I
Ghost-
usually do.
This is my first taste of Ghostwood. It is
Okay.
it isn't a brand I'm familiar with, but I like it. I am enjoying it.
All right, let's go to Walker. And I know you can't see Walker, so you're going to be stuck looking at us. I'm curious, Walker, what do you think?
I like this a lot. I think it does get better every sip. It is. I get a little like spicy and the warmth on it, but I do like it a lot. It's I think I like this one better than the one we had last week, and I gave the one we had last week a blue. So this
Okay.
one, you just better imagine.
So let me guess, you like it a lot.
I love it.
You like it a lot,
I
right?
like it a lot, and I love it.
Shocker, you can say that one more time.
I like it a lot, and I love it. You want me to say it again?
No. All right, let's go to Caleb, who has the Implicit Bias Whiskey Tasting Journal.
First off, I think that when Walker talks, I should just pretend to be him and like lip sync along to his voice.
Okay.
I think that way it'll give people a good visual representation of how he behaves.
Dude, are you gonna wear socks with slides like he does too?
Nah,
I haven't wore that in forever.
I will never forget that. Never. I texted your father and was like, "This is the child you raised," and his response was his mama. So, the other one was the first time I've ever had Ghostwood. I like kind of the story. We talked about it earlier in the back of their bottle. It talks about the ghost stories and the names and the stories get written down in the Ghostwood and carried down through other campsites, so forth. The flavor is good. It still has that berry honey, which is just a phenomenal, crisp, clean honey to me on the nose. You get it. It's not as sweet as honeysuckle. And then you get, to me, it's more gentle, more subdued. So the alcohol content doesn't bring out more flavors for me. It actually subdues them a little bit. I'm looking forward to trying this one with water and whiskey and seeing what happens with it. I think it'll be phenomenal and amplify it more than a 90 proof.
What's really interesting for this one, when you said you get that honey, I get, and I know this is going to be like a Caleb Morse type reference, I get honey apple on this.
I could see that.
Like an apple dipped in honey instead of being dipped in caramel. It would absolutely, to me, give you that sweetness, that crispness
Yes.
that you would get with maybe even like a Granny Smith apple, so not over sweet.
I wrote that down on my list.
Would you write?
I wrote crisp apple honey.
Yeah. And I absolutely get that with this. You get that spice on it that you would expect. To me, it's a little young. It's just a little thin.
And there's no age statement on it that I noticed. I still get candied almonds. I noticed that kind of flavor to it still. It's the same flavor profile as the last one. It's just a little bit better. I mean, 90 proof versus 114. What you got, Renee?
They have a bottling statement. It was bottled in 17, but it doesn't say how
Yeah.
old. You
So,
know,
I mean,
it's a bourbon. It's a blended bourbon whiskey.
4 grain. Yeah, it's a 4 grain blend.
4 grains. Yeah. So God only knows.
You know, and it intrigues me because I think that they're still, they almost went bankrupt, not bankrupt, but they almost closed their doors during
because
COVID.
of COVID. Yeah.
So I'm assuming that nothing's very, very old. I'm very intrigued by what this will be in the next 3 to 4 years. I think that this has a lot of potential, the way that the flavors are and the complexity for it.
One of the questions that I have around it because of the COVID dynamic is I wonder what they have sitting in the rick houses that's just sitting there getting better.
That is what I'm looking forward to. And this at their barrel proof at 114, to me, it just hits that much better. It's like going for a ride in your buddy's, V6 V6 sports car when you're in high school. You're like, oh yeah, Johnny's got a new one and it's great. And then you're riding his dad's V8 like GT or whatever it is, and you're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The proof makes all the difference in the world on this. It doesn't quite get me to that top tier upper echelon, but it's close. It's really close as to the flavor profile. It gives you that little bit of aggression that you want and expect and hope for. It gives you just enough, as Renee said, that spice. I get a lot of spice on this. I get a lot of that holiday, almost baking spice.
You know what?
It's almost like a apple pie. You get an apple-y, but that spicy cinnamon and everything that you would see.
This is a perfect in between bourbon, because right now we're in between duck season. So teal season's up. We're not big ducks. It's not deer. It's like, you know what? I forgot. It's squirrel season. That's what this is. Like, oh, I forgot. We can still do something fun. That's what this is.
I agree with you because it's not quite that sit out by the campfire, big, deep, bold flavor that we really like here in the Top Secret Podcast layer. But it's kind of where we are now in Southern Louisiana, which is days in the 80s. At night, you're tapping mid to lower 60s, almost 50s. It's just warm enough. It's not too hot. It's not too cool. It's just right.
Oh, I like how you did the...
Yeah, the Goldilocks and the Three
Goldilocks.
Bears.
I couldn't remember her name.
That was unintentional. That was completely unintentional. You know why? Because I have been unburdened by what has been. And the best part of that is I grew up a middle-class kid
Oh, man.
in a middle-class household with 6 bedrooms in Canada.
We should do a drinking game. Next time she talks,
Oh.
like, it does anything, every time she says that, it should just be you down your glass.
I'll be dead in
Oh,
about
it would be
20
horrible.
minutes.
I've started drinking a long time ago when she spoke.
Well played. Ring the
Yeah,
bell.
that's a ding ding.
That's an absolute ding ding right there. Well played, sir. Okay, so let's roll out our ratings for this with regards to the Morse Whiskey rating code. Red, I wouldn't drink it even if it was free. Yellow, I'll only drink it if it's free. Green, I would buy it. Blue, I would seek this out. And we are going to play What Would You Pay for the What Would You Pay Championship Belt Chain. Renee, you gonna jingle it? Yes, which someone will wear here in the Top Secret Podcast. There, we're going to go a little long here, Walker. All right, we're going to start with Caleb. Caleb, number 1, where do you rate this on the Morse Whiskey rating code? Red, yellow, green, or blue? I would seek this out.
It's a green. This is a green for me. Like I like it. I enjoy it, but solid green.
All right, to the bar.
I'm going to go green as well.
Okay.
Just like Caleb had touched. I'll look forward to seeing what they can do when they get a little mature. This is good. I like it a lot.
All right, Renee.
It's a green for me.
It's a green for you. Walker? Yeah, we don't care. All right,
It's
a
a
green.
blue for me.
Again, we don't care. It's a green all the way around because, yeah, this is an upper echelon green for me. Not quite to a blue, but absolutely worth it. We're going to play What Would You Pay when we come back before we start diving into the topics that just need to be solved and maybe some of the solving already being done by members here in the Top Secret Podcast layer, right here on Implicit Bias. Can't just talk about it, actually got to do it on this week's episode of Implicit Bias. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. Welcome in to the crew. In the Top Secret Podcast layer, we hope you're having a weekly whiskey with us. A reminder of who the crew is if you're on the radio side. We're going to start with a quick shot of Caleb Morse. He is the Rustic Renegade. We're going to talk to him in just a moment about the Armory Project, as well as play What Would You Pay for the Championship Belt Chain, which is sitting at the bar, where we have Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist who, yes, has the What Would You Pay, and as you see, it is a true championship belt chain that someone will wear here for the rest of the show, as well as Brian Harmon, who we need a nickname for him. His might be TMI based upon the text that he sent me earlier today about what was going on at work. Maybe that's his nickname. I'm not sure. We'll figure that out. Off camera, you can't see him, but they're making the show work, and we've got to thank, well, at least one of them. We've got to thank Aaron, who is making video happen. Walker, we would like to thank, but he is also better off dead. It's also his nickname. He is the Implicit Bias Pledge, who has not worn his pledge pin now in a couple of weeks. I'm just letting people know. So if you want to chime in, if you're watching on Facebook, on X, on YouTube, on Insta, which is where you can go find the show, please remember, follow, like, share. It really helps the show. You can also comment and tell Walker, which, by the way, that makes me think we're going to have to find a way to get some pictures of Walker. And I don't just mean like regular pictures. I mean like compromising pictures that we can put on social media so everybody can know what Walker looks like. Caleb, you think you can,
I've
do
got
that?
an idea. I do.
Ah,
I do.
yes, I knew you would. Thank you. That is our former intelligence expert at work. All right, so let's play What Would You Pay before we get to the topics of the week, where we're going to solve the problems of the world. Let's start at the bar. Gentlemen, what would you pay for this Ghost Wood barrel proof at 114 proof?
I'm thinking 45. But one of the things I wanted to say about Walker, since he's got a grown-up job now, that's why I think he figured he doesn't have to wear the pledge pin anymore.
No.
That's-
Actually,
I think that's
'cause
what
I
it is.
forget it when I'm coming in. I'm coming in hot.
How
So I do forget it every time.
you can't forget the pledge pin.
It's
You
actually at my,
cannot forget it.
it's at my house on my bedside table. So it sleeps next to me, but I just forget to
Dude,
bring
you
it.
should keep that
Oh,
here in
there's
your
a-
office.
I always used to keep it here, but I brought it to Mr. Lester's and it's just been sitting at my house since then.
There's such a good girlfriend joke there, but I like your girlfriend, so I won't do that to her. All right, back to the bar. What would you pay Mr. Harmon?
I'm going to go with $55.
$55. All right, Walker, what about you?
53.
53. Caleb Morse.
Ooh, $68.
$68. All right, we have a winner. And we have a winner that is 1 penny away from what this bottle of Ghostwood Barrel Proof costs in the Implicit Bias Weekly Whiskey Partner Network. $54.99, which means Mr. Harmon, you are the winner at the bar. You get to wear the What Would You Pay championship belt chain for the remainder of the show. Congratulations, and we hope that your back is not in bad shape.
Let me I actually have a question. So maybe we should call you like Brian Party Pooper Harmon, because as an insurance agent, would you suggest we have someone sign a waiver for the lead and the weight in that thing? Or
In complete honesty, this is the first time I've held it. It's ridiculous.
And there's probably more than one reason to call him Party Pooper is his joke.
it's the Mr. T starter kit.
It is. It is. All right. Okay, so we now have that settled. Brian Harmon will wear that for the rest of the show. I love seeing that on him on camera now. It just makes it so much more worth it. Okay. To the Armory Project. This is something that we need to discuss because this is a serious topic, and it is words that have been spoken here on the show, words that Caleb used to say before the show, and it's words that we've really all said with regards to our veteran brethren, because you never want someone utilizing a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And Caleb, you were featured on CBS Evening News for helping people avoid just that.
yeah, and y'all can go see the clip to see how kind of it started. But the gist of it is, I got tired of saying somebody should help, somebody should do something. And I've said it before, is I am somebody, I'm someone. So if someone says someone or somebody should intervene, I will be that person. And it started off just as a way to help a friend or friends in need. As word has gotten out, we've now held plenty of firearms for over 50 people.
For those who don't know, Caleb's gun shop
Yeah, so
is set up now legally to take
Yep.
weapons for those who are worried they might do self-harm and hold them for them until they feel better.
part of the backstory, we had vets bringing us firearms. They were like, "Look, man, can you hold these while I kind of figure out life, while I get my head right, while I try to figure out what's going on? I just don't want them in the house right now." And I said, "Sure, we'll do that." And talked to one of my lawyers, and he was like, "You should not do that, Caleb." He goes, "If you give them back to them, that's a big liability." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean if? Like when I give them back to them? They're not my firearms. They're their firearms. I don't want them to lose their rights. They've done nothing illegal. They've just lived life. We all, at some point in time, don't feel like we're on top of the world. And it's a very real thing, and it's something that we as men kind of just push to the side. I mean, if you ask any one of us in here how we're doing, what's the generic male response? Good. I'm
Fine.
good. I'm fine.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is, like, some days I feel like running headfirst into traffic, and we just keep it in, we hold it, and we think, look, no one cares. And man, I care.
This is a great topic, Caleb, because it is, and veterans are burdened probably more than most men because they usually carry a lot with them, especially combat vets. They carry a lot with them that maybe, I don't want to say normal, but the average man doesn't necessarily see with regularity. But I can almost guarantee you, and I'll be a little transparent here, guys carry a lot of stress. Real men, which is one of the things we talk about here on this show, and I'm curious if y'all want to chime in. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but real men carry a lot of responsibility because you wake up every day and your thought is, I have to provide for the wife, the children that I've brought into this world, and I've got to make sure they have it better than I had it. That's what a real man does. And I've got to make sure that I do everything that's moral, ethical, and legal, but shy of that, to die early to make sure that they have it better.
Well, and then with it, like when we have our bad days, because we all have bad days. I mean, and today I was a horrible husband for a little while. I snapped at my wife. I spoke to her in a way that I never should have spoken to my wife, a manner in which I would not tolerate anyone ever talking to my wife or anyone else's here spouse. And I did that. And I carry that with me, and I'm beating myself up about it. And we have to acknowledge that these things happen. And sometimes we need to say, look, I need a timeout for safety. I need some help. And that's the role that we play in this, is we're here to help. We helped get a law passed here in Louisiana where it removes any implied or explicit liability with us holding on to a firearm for somebody. Because I want to give you your firearms back. I don't want red flag laws. I don't want all this other stuff. I don't want you to lose your rights. I want you to keep the firearms that have been in your family for one generation, let alone 1,000 generations. And that's what Louisiana wants. And since then, Texas has talked to us, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Arkansas, Mississippi. We're talking to some people in Georgia. And we're trying to get this to go to other states to where it benefits you. Because when we talked to other gun shops that were interested in it, they were like, man, it sounds great, but I'm not going to risk everything. Because not everyone is as bullheaded as I am. Because I'm sure, Brian, if you had my insurance policy at that time, if you'd have looked at it, you'd have said, Caleb, don't do this. I mean, that would have been the right thing for you to say, and I just said, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway. And not everyone is willing to do that. Not everyone's willing to risk everything they ever built to save someone's life.
What I think becomes really difficult is going to be, as word of this gets out, you're going to start hearing from not just a few people that you know, and I'm sure you're starting to experience this now. You're going to start to hear from lots and lots and lots of people. Because even those who haven't necessarily been through combat, it's really easy to go through basically a major depressive episode, 6 to 8 months where you're overstressed, you're not eating, you're going through all this stuff. Been there, done that, came through the other side, right? And sometimes those people, just to be smart and just to be wise, will reach out. Renee, you want to chime in?
Yeah, Caleb, I got a question for you. I know primarily you're looking out for vets. If there's a vet out there that find themselves in that situation, what do? How do they find a participant in the Armory Project?
So the armoryproject.org is our website. You can go there and you can see the other partners in the state of Louisiana. There are 13 other partners right now. I have held the most firearms in the state. And there are other places that are partners that can't hold firearms, right? They may be a home FFL, a home federal firearms licensee. And what they would do is they would take your firearm in and then ship it to me.
So they can.
Yeah, they facilitate everything, and then
it's true. They would have an FFL, and you have an FFL, so they can basically transfer.
Yep, they would just transfer it to me,
and then you can store it.
And then I can store it because I have a little more space. I have 4 safes dedicated just to this program.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it, I am not. We're not exceedingly well off by any means.
No, but you're doing what's right. You're doing what's right to help somebody out.
There's a cost with it, and I've resigned myself, and I'm okay with the fact that I will absorb that cost because we talked about having funding. We've talked to the VA because the VA gives us very little oversight with this because we wanted a little oversight. We've wanted to have a clinical psychologist, Ms. Gallus True with us, who does that, and then she kind of helps keeps the ball rolling, but we didn't want to get grant money or anything else because with that becomes the government fingers.
More strings.
Right? So we don't want to give up names. We're not going to give up names. We're not going to give up what kind of firearms they are. And we operate in the legal parameters that we have to make sure this works. And no one needs to know who you are at all. So that's the thing that we do this is not every shop can say, look, I'm going to do maintenance on these firearms. I'm going to clean these firearms. I'm going to just absorb the cost. So if they can't, they have us to lean on, and we'll make it work.
That experience, that ability to actually walk the walk, not just talk the talk, how has that helped you deal with things in your life? Because my guess is that the real, I don't want to say the benefit, but there is a fringe benefit of doing the right thing, which
There
is you probably have something to come out of this, a lesson at least learned at the very least.
You know, and the God's honest truth, I think my eyes started twitching. The God's honest truth to it is it's helped me feel more fulfilled because I feel like I'm doing my man-like, my God-like, my Christian-like duty of helping mankind. But at the same time, it helps me with my own internal problems. I have very unhealthy mental health solutions. I don't know if that's the right way to word it. I help other people instead of helping myself. So instead of going and doing the due diligence that I should do and digging down and really fighting and facing my demons, I try to help more people. And everyone that I talk to, the psychologist, the psychiatrist, everyone else, they're like, Caleb, that's not healthy. We have to work through this. You need to focus on you. And I'm like, I'm too busy. And I'm too busy to do it. If I slow down, someone else isn't going to get the help they need, and I'm okay for now. And I spoke to someone the other day. I spoke to someone today too, and I need to slow down, and I will slow down. And I know that what I do is unhealthy, but I also know that what I do is worthwhile.
Don't worry. I'm sure not just the crew here in the Top Secret Podcast layer, but the entire Implicit Bias family, we all got you back. Speaking of which, we will be right back on Implicit Bias. Final sips of hour one here on Implicit Bias. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. We have a great crew here in the Top Secret Podcast layer. He is the rustic renegade, Caleb Morse, which, by the way, if you want to see the story we were talking about in the last segment, you can go to our Facebook page. We'll put it up on X. We'll make sure that it's linked out there so you can learn more about the Armory Project, learn more about Caleb Morse, who he is. One of the reasons why he's one of those guys on this show and a member of the crew. Trust me, you want to see it. We've also got our gentleman at the bar, Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist, Rene Girard. He is the guy with no hair. Well, the old guy with no hair. Then there's the other guy with no hair. He is TMI, Brian Harmon. We love Brian of Dupree Carrier Godshaw Insurance. He actually is the insurer here on the show. And of course, the one you can't see, trust me, it's for a reason. We're being kind to you. It's Walker Griffon, Better Off Dead, the Implicit Bias Pledge. As I said, final sips of hour one. So this is the Ghostwood Barrel Proof. We actually put a couple drops of water and whiskey, which if you're looking for that, and you're in the Lafayette, Louisiana area listening, you can find it at New News Market. You can find it actually at Le Grenadier, downtown cocktail bar. They have fantastic cocktails. They've also got great pours, and they have your proofing water and whiskey, which you can find there. More locations soon to come. So let's start here, go around the TSPL before we dive into our final topic of hour one, which is, what are you thinking of this Ghostwood Barrel Proof now that you've had water and whiskey in it? Why don't we start at the bar?
Opens it up a lot. It just, the water and whiskey just,
What it's supposed to do.
well, yeah, but that's, I mean, it did. It took some of the spice away,
Okay.
and just the flavors just pop more out of it.
There we go. Brass tacks. That's what
yeah.
we need, right? Brass tacks. Details.
Yeah, I agree. Even someone like me that has trouble distinguishing the flavors, I just notice it. Just like you said, it takes the burn away. It does open up the flavors, and what I need to do is be using this on some of my favorite bottles I have at the house, just to see how that's just going to improve it. But I agree, it did. It brought out the flavor.
Yeah, just those 2 drops that were put into what was in this glass really did open it up. And I mean, to your point, you started to get those bolder flavors. Those light flavors that I talked about became more hearty. It became a little bit more viscous, a little more thick, a little more oily, believe it or not, by adding just a couple drops of water. Caleb, what did you get when you added the water and whiskey?
I got the aroma to me. There was a ton more aroma on it. I noticed a little bit sweeter. It took off that edge, that cut. But man, it brought out and accentuated so much flavor. It took something that was already a really good, really solid green, and it elevated it up. I was very, very impressed of what the 2 drops did to this.
I actually really like this bottle. The water and whiskey almost made me want to think it was a blue, but we always rate without water and whiskey, so that's where it'll be. We don't care what Walker thinks about what this turned into with water and whiskey, so we won't even ask him. Let's go into a apparently problem of the world that somebody was still doing something to solve, even though it happened in the early 1800s. So we have a claim, I would love to say that it's definitive. I would love to say that we know. What we know is that we have a researcher who now claims that he has definitively identified who Aaron Kaminsky was. Anybody remember the name Aaron Kaminsky and who that allegedly is?
I mean, I do. I see Brian does.
Renee.
Renee, you were alive back then.
Yeah, I was there, but wasn't that what Kaminsky Park is named after?
No, that would be Comiskey Park.
Oh, okay.
Not Kaminsky. Two different
okay.
things.
All right.
Two different things.
Was he an assisted suicide doctor?
No, he was not. He is not that doctor. Although Aaron Kaminsky did allegedly, according to this researcher, last name Edwards, did extinguish multiple women in the early 1800s in what really, I guess you could claim is the first known serial killer on record, aka Jack the Ripper. What Edwards alleges, and this comes from cornwallonline.com, is one of the places. It was actually published in a lot of places, so please don't believe us on this. Go look this up. But what Edwards claims is really fascinating. So Aaron Kaminsky was a Jewish Polish immigrant into London at the time. Not only do they claim that his DNA, that the DNA that was on a scarf that was found at one of the crime scenes with the victim's blood and someone else's blood and bodily fluids on it, and we'll leave it at that, because you probably know what it is, matches a descendant of Kaminsky. So it comes up as a direct match because they were able to use the latest DNA techniques to match the blood on the scarf to the blood of this living person, partially, which says it had to be this guy, Kaminsky.
So because it happened in Britain, they pronounced it caramel.
You see,
No, but going back to the DNA thing, one of the things that they worry about with DNA is it can be corrupted very easily. A skin cell falling into the sample from somebody else just totally. So how do they know? I mean, this sample is 100, 200, over 200 years old. How can they tell?
So here's the interesting part about that. Obviously, if it is a match, enough of a match to a descendant of the alleged killer, that person would have to somehow be involved in the match, right?
Yeah, but how do they know that somebody who handled that wasn't related to this? Well, you've got separate samples. Essentially, what you have are 3 samples. You would have to have cross-contamination of multiple samples, which becomes much more difficult today than it was then. Now, I'm not saying this is perfect, right?
I don't think anyone's going to touch some of those fluids.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Here's the really crazy part to me. The allegation is that Kaminsky's brother was a member of law enforcement, which was why he wasn't looked at. One reason.
Well, he was a suspect for a while, but they
shied away from it. Which is the second part of the allegation. He was a Jewish immigrant. Allegedly, according to the investigator, please, this is not me, they didn't want to continue looking into him because of his religion. Mm-hmm. And the murders, now this is the really crazy part, because this starts the rabbit hole that can become implicit bias. The murders, they understand why now. Because Kaminsky was also, of all of this stuff, a Freemason. A high-level Freemason, and was in fact acting out Freemason rituals in real life. That's the allegation. And that's the allegation that comes from Edwards, the guy who did all the research and all this. I find it really, really odd because all these ties keep coming back into each other and all these roads lead back to the same places.
Right there, though. You said his brother was a member of law enforcement. What's to say his brother didn't touch or have access to the samples and what the DNA is his?
Well, it
and
goes
it's
into-
not.
That's a great point, Renee.
You know,
that is
it's
a great point.
It's contaminated. You know, back then they didn't have latex gloves. They didn't know about Ziploc bags and taking samples and putting and isolating. And they just had
Chain of custody wasn't a thing as it is today.
No, not at all.
You know, I would really love to talk to a geneticist about like how this happens, how they go through it, because, I mean, and this kind of DNA testing, I'm sure, is very different than like 23andMe and everything else. But there's a group that goes out on 23andMe and he sends animal DNA to them to see where it's from, and they're like, oh, well, he's 13, you're 13% South American and 27% Middle African, and you're of this descent. And he's like, well, this is a giraffe. Right? So I do think that there are a lot of holes in science.
From a zoo in Buenos Aires. That's why it's a South American.
So, like, I would love to see, and I'm sure that there are people out there who dig into genetics and everything else and have a much better understanding of that than I do.
We would hope that this testing was a little deeper and a little more methodical and airtight than that. But then again, this is 2024. I mean, for all we know, it could be aliens that were Jack the Ripper. I don't know.
If they would send it to CSI Las Vegas, I'd feel a lot better.
Yeah, they always seem to figure out exactly who it is.
In
right?
an hour. In 1 hour.
In 1 hour. All right, Brian?
What I found fascinating about the whole story was the facial reconstruction that they're able to do with the DNA sample that they did collect. And to touch on what you had said about the lack of crime scene
Chain of custody?
The chain of custody.
Yeah.
The whole reason that sash existed to this day was because one of the investigating officers actually kept it for some sort of like brought it home as a gift to his wife, and that stayed in their family all these years, and that's how the author got his hands on this thing. But what the point I want to make is, I was immediately drawn to our advancements in technology and how it can be applied in strange ways and not applied in others. Like, for instance, we now know 180 years later, we know who Jack the Ripper is, but in 2024, we don't know who the cocaine belonged to in the White House. It's just amazing to me.
Hold up. Wait a minute. We also got to go back. First of all, that's hysterical. You need to ring the bell on that one because that's an absolute bell ringer. But what does your relationship need to be like with your wife to be like, honey, look at the sash I got you from a murder victim, from a guy who has been killing people all over the Whitewall section of England, right?
That dude is super cheap. He couldn't afford to go buy his wife a new sash. I'm going to take this one. Well, it's got a little blood on it, but that's okay.
Maybe it was really nice. Maybe it was a really nice sash.
It might have been very nice, but come on.
You think he told her?
So apparently,
but it was so nice to the fact that that a lot of doubt was that it cast doubt on its authenticity because
it was supposed to be for a prostitute.
It was supposed to be for a prostitute
Well,
in the early 1800s.
I was about to say, and that's how they potentially came upon Kaminsky as one of the suspects because he was well off and the victim was not well off enough to have something of that high quality. But you know what is high quality that you are lucky enough to have? More implicit bias. Hour 2 when we come back. If you missed hour 1, if you're not catching hour 2 because your particular portion of the Implicit Bias Network doesn't carry hour 2, find us on all our socials. Find us wherever you get podcasts. X, YouTube, Facebook, Insta. Call them and tell them, hey, I want more of my implicit bias. Always more fun in hour 2 on Implicit Bias. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. Thanks for joining us. If you're on the video side, you're seeing us in the Mr. Lester's top secret podcast lair located somewhere in Lafayette, Louisiana. We do our best to emulate what Mr. Lester's looks like, but let's face it, we just can't do it justice. We will talk a little bit about what we've got coming up at Mr. Lester's because Winter Implicit Dinner is on the books and it's going to happen in November. Going to be tons of fun. We'll tell you how you can win an opportunity to come down with us and have dinner at Mr. Lester's, stay at the hotel at Cypress Bayou, you and a guest. We'll tell you how to find it. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge for our Monty Python fans. You'll want to find us on social media to make that happen. In the top secret podcast layer this week, we have with us at the bar, Renee Jouard, Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. We have TMI, Brian Harmon of Dupree Carrier Godshaw Insurance. And of course, in the other chair here in the Top Secret Podcast lair, he is the man, the myth, the legend. He is Caleb Morse, the rustic renegade himself. All right, guys. So we are sipping on the whiskey offering at Mr. Lester's for October, which Winter Implicit Dinner is going to happen in November. So they'll probably have some of this left, as well as something new, which we'll get to in subsequent shows. But I'm curious as to what you think of this particular Angel's Envy offering, because what they're offering is a flight. It's the rye at 100 proof. It's the port cask finish, and it is the triple oak, which kind of hadn't seen anywhere. Caleb and I got to sample it last week. We've got some people at the bar who are getting their first samples of it this week, so let's start there. Gents, at the bar, what do you think of that triple oak finish, Angel's Envy?
I think y'all did more than sample because the bottle is half gone. So me and Brian only got, less than half a bottle, and,
We tried to have self-control.
yeah.
And I think half a bottle is self-control.
I think you failed a little bit.
Half the bottle of self-control. You know this, Renee.
Yes.
You know this. You
Yes.
drank with us. We've sent you to the hospital before.
yeah, I've been-
you know
yeah.
how this works.
Yes, it does. I'm doing a triple oak. I love it. It's very smooth. It's only a 92 proof. It's just, dude. Yeah, I can understand. No, I don't understand why there's only a half a bottle. It would have been less if I would have been here. I mean, we would have drained that bottle.
And the
'Cause that is
hospital would have gotten another visit. We know.
well, yeah. I mean, they make good money off of me, so it's okay. My wife works there. It's okay.
All right. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, same. The first sip, the off the nose was the first thing I noticed. It did seem like it was going to be a tasty beverage, and it's good. Y'all got it. Was it a unanimous blue last week? I don't
yeah.
remember if it was.
Yeah. I don't even know that we full on rated it. We just went, this is a
we
blue. It's that good.
Yeah.
Because we knew.
That's exactly where. No hesitation. I'd have put a blue immediately.
And for those who maybe don't know, maybe you're catching this as a segment on one of our socials, YouTube, X, Facebook, Insta. A blue is the highest rating we can give. So that particular triple oak, it's got the blue label. It's there for a reason. What, Renee?
It's blue because Caleb ran out of colors after that. Because we keep trying to get more, and he won't let us.
No.
I
he
want
won't.
it simple. I like things simple. I am not a rocket scientist.
We can't blend colors because there's some whiskeys that have come between green and blue, and we're like, blue, green. He's going, no.
As a
it's
kid-
either green or blue.
As a kid, I played with Lincoln Logs because Legos were too complicated. Right? So
Well, you might need to come up with another color because there has been some whiskeys that
I think
surpass blue.
we need to do not a best of, but we'll like our best of bourbons, and then rate them again. Be like, all right, what's the blue? Like, what is the bluest of the blues?
I will tell you what the bluest of the blue is. It is deep blue.
It is.
It is our infinity bottle here in the Top
Which
Secret
is all
Podcast
blues.
layer. It's
It is
all blues.
phenomenal,
And when I
too.
tell you it is off the charts good, it is so good. So good. Yeah, so this flight, the three offerings,
Don't say it.
the rye, the port barrel finish, and the triple oak.
Nope.
Go ahead, Caleb. You
Don't.
know, you say it. I'm not saying it. You say
I
it.
don't want to.
Say it. Say it. Say it.
It's $20.
No, it's 30 actually.
It's 30. It's 30. I corrected you last time. You got me this time. Thank you.
Yeah.
It
No,
is-
look, we want to make sure we get it right.
It
for
is
Chef Willie.
$30, which for $10 a piece, for $10 a pour in each one of those, it is ludicrous. Like it's plaid all the way.
It is absolutely approaching plaid, no doubt.
If you don't want to do the flight, I saw it's 15
a
a
pour.
pour. So, I'm not a math guy, but dude, do the flight.
A penny
it's
save. It
cheaper.
saves you $15 to
Exactly.
get 3 drinks.
Exactly.
That's the math I explain to my wife all the time. Like when we go to Mr. Lester's, I'm like, baby, look, I have to.
it makes financial sense to do that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's not the only time you tell your wife, baby, I have to. Anyway. All right, so we have some other things we need to get under. We do have Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist, and we finally got football and porch sitting weather in southern Louisiana. Actually, in Louisiana, period, in the past week. We finally got that beautiful weather, and our thoughts, prayers, our hearts go out to everybody in Florida who's dealing with what you're dealing with. It's terrible. We're going to do something, whatever it can be. We'll do something because we understand we've been there. But that also means that it's porch sitting weather. So Renee, what's our cigar of the month during October?
Well, right now I've been chewing on, and boy, I'm very tempted to light it, but I know I'll
Don't
get
talk to
fussed
me.
at.
Talk to the landlord.
I know. I'll get fussed at. Of
'Cause
course,
you know what?
he's not here right now.
No,
so.
he's not. But you know what? We should write poetry about landlords, and you might get someone who submits, and they might want to CILL my landlord, right? For those who remember that.
Mr. Robinson's neighborhood.
It was actually, it wasn't that character. It was Eddie Murphy who did it. But it wasn't that character when I kill my landlord, I kill my CILL my landlord. It was fantastic.
But
All right.
anyways, I've had this McAuliffe Red in my hand for all night tonight. It's a new cigar they just released. We did a release party last week. It's a San Andreas Habano wrapper. It's using a Pennsylvania broadleaf binder, but the broadleaf is grown in Nicaragua, which it kind of gets people get all convoluted about that. It's this hybrid of tobacco grown here, and it changes. Anytime you move a tobacco, it changes the tobacco. The fillers are from Nicaragua and Honduras. It's just a great cigar. This is the third line that they've done. They did the black initially, then the blue, and now the red. And the red falls right in between the other two. It's a great cigar. It's a good medium, mild to medium smoke. Very, very tasty.
So there's kind of my question, which is, what is the profile of the cigar smoker that this would just hit right in the fields?
You could, a very beginner, it might be a little intense for, but you should be able to handle it. But it's more of an intermediate cigar smoker. Even guys, like me, I've been smoking cigars forever. I love this cigar. It's just a nice, tasty cigar, especially first thing in the morning with a coffee. Oh my God.
Smooth, easy draw, everything
Yes.
else.
Oh yeah, the
Not
construction
very
is
tight.
Construction is perfect. It's got a good draw to it. Great with coffee in the morning. It's great with whiskey. I wish I could light it now, but I'd get fussed at.
It's not the only thing you'll get fussed at, I'm sure.
Well, no, you fuss at me all the time for mispronouncing caramel.
All right, so these are readily available. You've got these, and you can find these if you're in one of the 58 countries, or we've been downloaded 1,300 cities that has downloaded us as a podcast. Is this easily accessible pretty much everywhere?
I don't know if they can get it in all those countries, but it's at my store.
It's at your store, which is the important one.
There's probably in Louisiana, there's probably, 5 or 6 stores at least that carry them. And like I said, this is their big push right now. They've just come out with it this month. Actually the end of September. And so it's a new cigar, and they're hinting that a new cigar is coming out beginning of the year. So, we're waiting to see. But right now, this is awesome.
Well, let's say you live next to one of these other 4 locations, right? Because you would be the 5th.
Yeah.
If they live next to one of these other 4 locations that happen in Louisiana, and you're listening to us on terrestrial radio, and you want them to know that we exist, have them reach out to us about being a sponsor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's easy to find us, www.implicitbiasradio.com. Email's right there, and it's going to come to somebody here in the Top Secret Podcast lair. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
And if you can't find them at your favorite store, then call me.
Well,
just look me up and call me. I
Renee,
can work something up.
you are my favorite store.
I know you. I know you. Come see me. I go see you. We got that bromance going.
I am very, very fortunate to be friends with the
that-
CWAT. I
this
really
is-
am.
Oh, that is way too much information. I did not want to know that Renee has a CWAT, much less what he identifies as, right? That is, and for those who don't
Wait,
know.
I thought you were talking about Brian, TMI. I just, wait.
Y'all, apparently he brought the TMI for everybody at the bar. That's all I'm saying.
I like how Brian's hands are on top of the bar this time.
Well, he wants to show clear.
And for those who want to know, the CWAT, while Renee is the only certified master tobacconist in Louisiana, he is the only certified wizard of tobacco in the universe. Which is why he
as
is the
proclaimed by Caleb.
Yeah, I gave you that certification.
Which is why
Caleb did that.
That is why he is the CWOT, the CWAT. right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I love it. And you've had that nickname now for what, 4 or 5 years? Well, I mean, we've been on the show for 4+ years.
Yeah,
So about 3.5.
About 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to get you like a cigar wizard hat.
He came in with one
I
for a
got one.
Halloween show a few
I got
years
one.
ago.
Oh,
I got a top hat that's got all these fake cigar brands and bands on it. And
I
everything
should
else.
get like one of those. What was that nerd movie? That
I even
Walker
had the
likes
cape
a lot?
and stuff.
He's
Walker,
Har-
what's that nerd movie you like a lot? Is it
Harry Potter.
I'm
Yeah,
like-
Yeah.
I was
I
about
could
to
get
say,
the Harry Potter
no,
sorting hat
he's-
and smoke and
No.
like sew a cigar into his mouth.
He's not Harry
What?
Potter. He's Harry Puffer. Are you
Yeah.
kidding
Oh,
me?
I love that. What was that?
No. It's Harry Puffer.
Not Harry. No, look at your forehead. You're Harry Puffer. Trust me, because there's no Harry there.
Here, buddy. Here.
Walker, don't tell me that you don't sit down and watch that show. You've seen it?
I've seen it. I don't sit down and just watch it on my free time.
Don't speak out so vehemently against it. Like you're.
I've seen it a long time ago.
What's the saying? He doth protest too much.
Yes. I've seen
Oh,
it.
Walker,
I think
yeah,
I've
you
seen them
can
all
see it.
once.
And
I think
we've-
I've seen them all once.
You can go look it up, by the way. We actually explain on this show how Harry Potter ruined the world.
I read all the books. The books are great. They really are.
Are you dressing up and getting Harry Potter tattoos, Renee?
No, I'm not
Okay,
getting
then it's
tattoos.
okay. Then it's okay.
I will dress up though.
I don't want to hear about that. Keep that conversation between you and your wife. Not here. Not here. Because that is an image that Kavan does not want. I'm just saying. Just saying.
So we're not dressing up for Halloween this year again?
Actually, we might because we're on video. And the funny part is, well, we have a show that will be at Mr. Lester's. It will be recorded as this one is. It will be video on October 30th.
Oh, I think that needs to be a Halloween show.
But that show's not going to air and it's not going to drop until after Halloween.
It don't matter.
Or do we do the one before that, which is going to be here in the TSPL, and do that one? Only problem is that we're going to record that midday instead of the afternoon. That's the one we're going to record
don't
on
matter.
the 24th of October. So we'll see. We might dress up. I'm not sure. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll just tell everybody that we're dressing up. We'll let you dress up and look like whatever,
See-
and let you show up that way.
See, now that you're putting this on video, we can't show up and go, this is my costume. Yeah.
Oh,
we
valid
actually
point.
have to dress up.
Yeah,
now.
Valid
yeah,
point.
yeah. No,
'Cause
we
they see it.
can't lie about it anymore.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Visual's great. We love being here, and we hope that you're with us. What, Brian?
I can see the cogwheels turning on all of y'all's faces. It's like, oh God, I got to come up with a costume.
Yeah.
I see it all.
The problem I have is I'm very consistent. So I need to think. I need to think outside of the box.
You know what? You and Walker should come as a team and go with the same costumes that you did at the last Mr. Lester show. You can be Crockett. He can be Tubby.
Yeah. Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah. Neither of them had a beard, though.
Gary and Ace.
Then again,
If anybody picks up the reference,
I could
Gary and
I could be Marion Cobretti.
it's a Saturday
And you
Night
could
Live.
be, I don't know who
cartoon
the
skit.
co-star was.
oh yeah, no, not those two. No. Now I'm sure that we could get a couple people here. What were the names of
think it's Ace.
Dumb and Dumber?
Lloyd.
And Lloyd.
No, it was
Lloyd Christmas.
Samsonite. Sorry.
Yeah, your name is Samsonite. So you're telling me there's a chance. All right. I'm telling you there's a chance that we're going to come back with more Implicit Bias, more fun in hour 2, more weekly whiskeys, gifts from one of our listeners and program managers in the northern Louisiana area, which we really appreciate. That's a tease as we continue to solve the problems of the world doing works with the words on this week's episode of Implicit Bias. So many problems of the world to solve on this week's episode of Implicit Bias. We're just going to get to some of them. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon. If you're listening on the radio side, thanks for joining us. If you've missed any part of the show, find us wherever you get podcasts. Find us on X, find us on YouTube, find us on Instagram, find us on Facebook. Please like, subscribe, follow, share. We really appreciate it. It helps the show. Reminder of who's in the crew here this week on Implicit Bias in the Mr. Lester's Top Secret Podcast lair. At the bar, we've got Renee Girard, Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. We also have TMI Brian Harmon from Dupree Carrier Godshot. That's just his fun little nickname here on the show. The Rustic Renegade is sitting across from me. And the man we're going to talk about almost this entire segment is Walker Griffon. He's not on camera. We're going to find a way to get him on camera. We're actually discussing that. But here's why we're going to talk about him. Because, guys, we talk about words without works. And when we think about how we used to have to use words and works, everybody who's here on the show is of an age that you probably met your significant other in a face-to-face interaction first. Right?
Well, hold on.
Well, no, you might have talked through a friend, but even that was a face-to-face
Are
interaction.
you laughing because you know the story?
No, No, I don't know the story. I just like well, hold on.
So my wife and I, we went to high school together.
Oh, no.
And she is deathly afraid of rodents. And the first time I really noticed her, apparently a mouse ran by in our algebra or something class, and she jumped up on a desk, and I was like, would you look at that back end? So not
Okay.
necessarily face to face.
I'm going to make sure she listens. I'm going to
Well,
send her a note
you
because
know,
I'm sure she appreciates that.
And
I appreciate it.
we're South Louisiana, so that would be face to face.
Okay, so for those who are maybe in one of the 58 countries where we've been downloaded, that's French for something that's not a face. Well, then again, some people have their heads there, but that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, it's French for your backside.
Yes, we're aware, Renee. I think people with the IQ above that of a carrot had figured that out. All right, but here's the reason why. So I actually sent out a story to the crew, and one of the things that I've always said I dreaded, didn't realize just how much I would dread it until I saw this. They did a graph that progressed through years of how people are meeting their husband, wife, significant other. And it started back when the internet really got kicking about 2007, 2008, 2009.
That's when the change was
That's when the
noticeable.
change started being noticeable.
The graph started way before
Like
that.
Yeah.
35, I think is what
Yeah,
it said.
but it really got something popped up about that time that was, Renee, turn off your phone. I know you don't know how to work it, but turn off your phone.
And so when you looked at it, the top in the beginning, the top one that was almost 60% was family. You had family, church,
Friends.
friends. And then you had like work and all those others. And then there was one at the bottom that said 0% up until the time frame you're talking about.
Yeah, which was the internet. And what wasn't frightening to me was that people meet their significant others on the internet. What was frightening to me was that as we got into the late 20-teens and early 2020s, the disparity, it went from 10%, 15% to 60, 65. I mean, it's nuts how many people are meeting the person that they're dating or the person that they are spending all this time with online.
Well, and forgive me because I do think that it's regional as well because, and look, I haven't been in the dating scene. I've been married 21 years this month. And I pray, like, my wife is phenomenal and I like she is my everything. If we had to date now, man, if we didn't get introduced by a friend or something like that, I would never meet her because I'm not going to go searching for somebody online. So I think that like the South Louisiana thing or the Louisiana way to find somebody in my mind, and maybe it's me being naive, is still friends, family, work, church, things like that. But maybe I'm just being naive.
You would hope down here, but it's insane the number of people who meet online or attempt to meet online. And here's the big thing for me. It's difficult enough to ascertain who someone is when you're meeting them face to face and you're having conversations over a telephone, when you're, oh, this friend recommended this person. You never know when you're going to date crazy because everybody dates crazy at some point. We all do. And look, I might have been somebody's crazy. I'm sure I was. But there was somebody who was my crazy too. So that means that if you're finding crazy face to face with reference, with connection points, with the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, how often are you finding crazy when it's 9 million degrees of the internet?
Well, I mean, you know, my wife and I met 2,000 years ago, and we were in college, and it was, we were in the same class, and it was just like instant. Nowadays, if I had to go and date, it wouldn't happen. I'd be a hermit.
So
I just because nowadays there's so much fake on the internet, and with Facebook and all of this other stuff, you don't know.
this is where catfishing is a term that came from the internet because of this.
Yeah.
I mean, Walker, this is why I said we were going to talk about you, because I'm curious, how much did your parents pay for your girlfriend? And I don't mean like pay for her. I mean like pay her to date you. That's what I mean. Because that's what it takes, right?
It's called a dowry.
Okay,
what's the dowry
yeah.
that your dad had to pay for you?
Out of curiosity, though, where did y'all meet?
Just like being in the same, we started hanging out. Me and my friends started hanging out with like this group of chicks in high school.
Are you stalling, trying to remember? Is that what this is?
No, in high school, and then we hit it off like 2 weeks in, and like us hanging out, and then next thing you know, we were dating. So I met her face to face. I didn't meet her online.
Well,
we
yeah,
thought same
that
high
does.
school and stuff.
And that's
So
so
high
you
school
met her at
sweethearts.
school. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that was what happened with me and my wife. I mean, this was back in 1980. We were in Air Force ROTC, and that's where I met her at. And it was just instant. It was done.
It's amazing. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Y'all alluded to the graph earlier, and what I watched, just like y'all said, it really didn't take off. The internet didn't take off until about 2006, 2007. What I was expecting was, from my own life experience, was around the late 1990s. My mom actually met her second husband in the late 90s on like an AOL chat room.
Oh, wow.
And this, I don't know if it was 96, 97.
So it's funny that you say that, because this is another part that factors in. How many of the people that were part of this survey on where people met weren't 11 years old like Walker is? How many of them were 65, 70, who were, widowed, who were on their second marriage, things like that? And you're like, wait a minute, where do we find these people? I can tell you, I had a family member by marriage, a grandfather, who found his second spouse after he became a widow on the internet in like 10 minutes, right? It was just amazing because people are still looking to connect. And, the so-called boomers, they're using the internet for this. This is all demographics.
Yeah, see, I'm in that boomer age group.
No, you're like the boomer.
Well,
The bottom boom.
I'm the pre-boomer.
Yeah.
No, but I would not. I don't know if I would feel comfortable with that. I mean, I still like
Well, yeah,
the
but you're looking at it-
face-to-face.
You got to look at it this way
Look,
too.
if you would recommend somebody, if let's say, God forbid, something happens to my wife, and you would recommend a friend of yours,
First off,
I would trust that more than the internet.
Polly's ghost would haunt me forever.
Well, yeah, she would haunt me too.
Well, and here's the other thing. Notice Renee doesn't say, God forbid something happens to me and you recommend someone to my wife. He's killing his wife off first.
See, and
oh yeah, because it's all about me, man.
my wife and I, Jackie and I, already have arrangements. Like, she wants me to go first. I'm like, baby, sweetheart, don't do that to me. Like, I'm gonna be, I can't imagine it, because I would be in the woods by myself, like in a small cabin. I can't imagine life without my spouse. And
Yeah.
whenever people go through and they date now and they try to do everything else, like, I can't imagine how difficult it is in a world where people aren't genuine face to face, let alone on the internet.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know?
I mean,
It's interesting that you bring this up, that because as a transplant where we live in the Lafayette area, I came from New Orleans. And one of the things that I noted, and it's funny because my wife, who is from Baton Rouge originally, noted the same thing, that moving to Lafayette, if you were young in your 20s, professional and single, it was a terrible place to be, because everybody you met had been dating someone forever. So it was like, hold on, if you're single, you might be my crazy, right? I mean, that's kind of the way it was. I now look at it and go, thank God we live in a smaller community, because my kids have an opportunity to have that.
Well, and that's the beauty of it, is they get to see what love is. They get to see what marriage is supposed to be. You know, we have some phenomenal friends who just recently got married within the past year, and like, we're so happy for them because they get to experience what we've experienced, you know, and they get to go through and enjoy life as a phenomenal couple and really do it biblically to where the two become one flesh.
What we hope you get to experience is more of hour 2 of this week's episode of Implicit Bias. We're just a bunch of knuckleheads here in the Top Secret Podcast layer on Implicit Bias. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. The Mr. Lester's TSPL is here. And by the way, I'm going to put this out there because we'll have to make sure we get this rolling. We are going to have another winner implicit dinner, which means the crew will be down at Mr. Lester's on Saturday, November 16th. You can be there with us. Whether you're listening in New Orleans, whether you're listening in Monroe, Vidalia, Natchez, Mississippi, if you're a winner, we're going to cover your dinner. We're going to cover your drinks. We're going to cover your hotel room for the night, all courtesy of Mr. Lester's. We'll have something up and running on Facebook, on X, on Insta. Go find us, and you can win. That should be up about the time this hits all of those social platforms on video. If you're listening on the radio side, make sure you follow, make sure you've got your notifications on, make sure you've shared, and we'll show up there for a chance for you to win. Here in the Top Secret Podcast layer, as we continue to roll this is the penultimate segment of this week's episode of Implicit Bias. We've got the Rustic Renegade. He is Caleb Morse. At the bar, we've got Brian Harmon, a.k.a. TMI, as well as Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist, the CWAT, the certified wizard of tobacco, Renee Girard of Piper's Haven. Okay, so real quickly on the weekly whiskeys that we have been sampling here, I want to thank Alan Rawls for sending us this bottle out of Monroe, the Ben Holiday Rick House proof, coming in at 120, 6-year Missouri whiskey. This is a great pour.
And what's phenomenal about it is I had a long talk with him about it. Well, not long, but not brief. So good one. To think for a little while. And he doesn't drink.
It's an intermediate talk.
Yeah.
Intermediate.
Yeah. So he doesn't drink. We had a conversation about that and everything else. And he actually went through some pretty lengthy discussions with people about which whiskey to get us, which proof we liked. Like, he sat down and dug into it. And I think he just did a phenomenal job.
He did. It's a great pick. It's a great bottle. Alan, thank you. And by the way, if you're listening up in Monroe, let our friends at KMLB know. Reach out to them on social media. Find us on social media. Try and win. Come down and meet us. I'm sorry you have to meet us, but trust me, you'll enjoy the food at Mr. Lester's.
Yeah, and Alan's a great guy. He's come to the shop a couple of times. He's gone to Caleb's. He comes to, I think he goes and see Grant. When he'll come down here.
Yeah.
And
it was a wonderful surprise.
Yes. Yeah, he came during the week, and unfortunately I was kind of busy, and I didn't get to spend time with him like I wanted to. But, I mean, him and his dad are great people. Those people up in Monroe, fantastic folks.
He must not, and this is something that's really, you said he's a bright guy, he's fun. He must not have had fluoride in his water as a kid. And I mean, you're going to laugh at me, but I'm actually doing some research here.
Well, when I read that article, I was thinking...
Hint, hint. Yeah, it's a serious article. That's not a joke.
Yes, it is. I was thinking Arkansas, and he's kind of close to Arkansas.
So,
it just...
Let me give some background on this. Please don't believe us. The United States Department of Health has what's called the NTP, the National Toxicology Program. And the National Toxicology Program has come to a decision that excessive amounts of fluoride is linked to low IQ in children. Now, notice it's excessive amounts. But think about all the places where we now have fluoride.
It's in mouthwashes, it's in toothpaste, it's so many different things.
It's in your water supply in most places in the U.S.
They use it to help purify water. Like, it's in so many different things. And my wife and I have, at her request, or actually at her research, we swapped to a non-fluoride toothpaste recently because I've got horrible GERD and it's killed my teeth, all this other stuff. So, like,
excuse you.
Yeah. The dentists have been recommending fluoride, and I'm like, man, I don't know. My wife's been doing research, and she's like, sweetheart, It's probably not the best thing because I'm already not the brightest, right? And I think she's really trying to look out for our grandkids one day. But man, like this article particularly, when you go through it and you look at it, you're like, it really starts to make sense.
Fluoride is a really deep rabbit hole. I'm not going to give you necessarily our complete opinions or my complete opinion on fluoride. What I will tell you is this. We grow up in the U.S. under the marketing of toothpaste, of mouthwash, of billions upon billions of advertising dollars trying to tell you fluoride is good for you.
Well, 21 out of 10 dentists recommend it.
And what you then find out as an adult is that, gee, not every country puts fluoride in its water?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
A lot of countries say no to fluoride in almost anything.
Well, and some research and some studies you look at, they say fluoride is industrial waste. It's just like, okay, who do you listen to? You know, my dentist is pumping fluoride to me. I got to use this special toothpaste and stuff. So it gets to the point, who do you believe?
Well, here's to me the other thing. Fluoric acid, right? Mm-hmm. If a truck full of fluoric acid spills on the interstate, what is that called?
Hazmat.
Yes, that is a hazardous material. Fluoride, if consumed in too much amounts by a human, will do what? It will kill you. It will CILL you, right?
Well, and the thing is, okay, so now you're drinking water that your metropolitan system has put fluoride in. You're brushing your teeth with toothpaste that has fluoride. You're using mouthwash that has fluoride. So where does the too much come in? How do you know? Guess what? FDA doesn't have a recommendation on what's the too much amount.
So the FTP, the toxicology program actually did say, I believe it's 0.15 parts per million. Right? And most municipal water supplies are adding it at 0.04 parts per million.
You said 0.15 parts per million.
Now, but you got to think about it. If they're adding it to your water at 0.005, you said
0.04 is what
0.04.
most are adding. Like
But when
I
you look
actually
at-
went and looked up Lafayette Water Supply. They check prior to it entering for 0.04. That is what they check for. That's the level that they checked on their last, what I think was the 2022 water audit and report.
So if you have 0.04, so we still have 0.11 parts per million. But depending on the concentration of your mouthwash,
Your toothpaste,
everything else, it can come in because you got to think it doesn't necessarily work incrementally. Like it works exponentially. Sorry.
Nice word, exponentially.
Yeah, I made that one up on the fly. Depending on how you, and even the gum absorption, so how your skin transfers that mouthwash and everything else comes into play.
Yeah.
It's an insanely deep rabbit hole. I just thought it was really interesting. And some places have actually now removed, places inside the U.S., some cities have removed fluoride from their water supply over this study. Brian?
It is a deep rabbit hole, like you said. One thing I do know, now it was sold, now this is what I remember as a kid. Now, it's in our water system because of tooth health, right? It prevents tooth decay.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, all right. But I have a brother-in-law that born and raised in London, and he and I have spoken a little bit. And British people, not only do they mispronounce the word caramel, but they also aren't known for great
Yes, they're
teeth health.
Austin.
Austin
yeah,
Powers,
baby.
yeah.
Austin Powers was known for that. Yeah.
Now,
I get it. I have bad teeth.
so I'm not read enough to really formulate a good opinion. Okay, all I can tell you is what I see from my perspective. In the United States, teeth health is very good. We take very good care of our teeth in comparison to the rest of the world. So maybe there's some correlation there, but at what point is it too much is a very good point. And what I do know, to go further down that rabbit hole, and RFK Jr. is doing a very good job exposing this, is our FDA allows tons and tons of things that are not allowed in Europe, in any way, shape, or form. Not allowed to our neighbors to the north.
Yeah, I'd say not allowed in Canada.
Not allowed in Mexico. Like red dye 40, terrible for you. And it's in everything. It's just like high fructose corn syrup. When the word got out, hey, you're supposed to avoid high fructose corn syrup, we all started looking. There's no way to avoid it. It was in everything. So this is just, I think, just another example of half truths, maybe half lies, or it depends on how you want to categorize that.
Or not telling the whole truth.
That's right. I'm old enough, mature enough to know that yes, our government lies to us. That's what I do know. So what exactly, to the extent, are they lying on this particular topic? I don't know, but I know that I spent. And I shouldn't admit this on the air, but there was a point in my life where I didn't visit a dentist for 15 years. And when I finally went back, I had no cavities. So,
well, that's,
maybe that's just a testament to my good hygiene. That's what I think.
Okay, so let's start there. One of the reasons for potentially maybe the good dental health in the U.S. is just habit. Yeah. The fact that we actually do take care of, we do orthodontics, we do braces, we do things of that nature. Mm-hmm. The second part of this is, with all the stuff that's allowed in our food, the numismatist, Louis Pizzolatto, who's on this show quite frequently, has a saying, follow the money. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he's wrong when it comes to food, our food sources, what's allowed in our food in the U.S., what's allowed with regards to our health, all of it. It's all about following the money. And that may be why we have to go to break. Follow the money, because that's what keeps Implicit Bias on the air. Please utilize our sponsors. Follow us on all of our socials. Share us on all of the socials, because that will help us be more of your Implicit Bias. Hour 2 is just always so much more fun on Implicit Bias. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. Welcome into your hopefully favorite 2 hours of radio based out of somewhere in downtown Lafayette, Louisiana. This, if you're on our visual side, is the Mr. Lester's Top Secret Podcast Lair, and we have a great crew here wrapping up this week's show in our final segment of Hour 2. So let's dive in. First of all, this is something I actually meant to talk about throughout the course of the show, and we just never quite got to it because, well, we've had so many problems with the world. We've been trying to solve 1 or 7 weekly whiskeys at a time. The clip is out there. Please don't believe me. Please go find it for yourself. O'Keefe Media Group, MSNBC, as we are less than 30 days from the actual election, we are 30 plus days from our work being done, because we know this election won't be done on election day, as it's supposed to by law in the United States. That's a whole nother discussion. But the video's out there on O'Keefe Media Group that there is literally one media outlet that is admitting to what is actually called advocacy journalism. It is treated as news, but it is not. What it is a propaganda arm of a political party. So O'Keefe Media Group, James O'Keefe, who has been an investigative journalist for a while, he's known for hidden camera interviews where he infiltrates organizations and gets people to basically say what no one's saying in public. And he gets them to do it by having personal conversations that are recorded without their knowledge. We're going to be honest and transparent about what O'Keefe Media Group is. But, yeah, as somebody said, hot chicks who have conversations with people, mostly guys, who then admit what they are doing.
Well, and look, to be fair, depending on what state you're in, that's not illegal. Louisiana, if you want to record somebody, one party has to know there's a camera.
And that's most states.
Yep.
Most states, only one person has to know that they're recording the conversation, whether that's in person or over the phone. Mm-hmm. Well, what they now have is a producer from MSNBC, admitting on camera that they are doing everything they can to get the Democratic nominee for president of the United States elected. I'm curious, first of all, as to thoughts here in the Top Secret Podcast Lair. Number 1, is this your shock face?
This 100% is my shock face. Watch me. It's, I wasn't surprised. I mean, I was surprised that someone said it in public. That should be it, because anytime you go through what's called OPSEC, operational security, like they tell you, keep things close to the heart. You know, you don't say this in public. You keep that internal. And the fact that they were like, he literally said, we're doing everything we can. I mean, come on. That's not, maybe we'll consider it a Freudian slip. Maybe.
No. I mean, you look at most of the media, television media, audio media, print media. I mean, it's pretty obvious who they're supporting. I mean, that there's a vast majority of what we depend on for news or information, how they're leaning. There is not a lot of media out there that's center, not leaning one way or another, mostly to the left, but not much in the center even.
Well, so let's go back, and this is something our listeners probably haven't heard in a while. In 2017, Harvard did a study of which media outlets leaned which way. Please, again, don't believe me, go look this study up. 2017 Harvard study. And what they found was that the most balanced media outlet in 2017, again, don't believe me, was Fox News. Fox News, and the way that their study was done was they took the same amount of time on multiple networks, and they figured how many positive stories were run for each side and how many negative stories were run for each side. And they put them together and said the most balanced set of stories came from Fox.
Yeah.
And here's the crazy part. That means that we now consider as a country a balanced network far right. Because if you know, everybody says Fox is far right. That's what they all say.
Right.
If Fox is right down the middle, because it was basically 41, 49, 51, 50, 50. If that's what you consider far right, how far left has everything else gone?
Oh my God. We're so far left that, that we have to use Oxford Dictionary to pronounce caramel.
So here's, and this is maybe better that we can continue this to 2024, 7 years later.
Yeah.
And nobody talked about this. I saw this, and if I can find it again, I'll credit them on the next show. But this is how you know it's still going on. So if you remember, we had a different Democratic nominee for as a presidential candidate.
Correct. We had a Democratic nominee. The person we have now was not a nominee.
But we had Joe Biden, right? And when Joe Biden was still the nominee, if you remember, right up until he was no longer the nominee, what did all of the
Sharp
polls...
as a tack.
Not just that, but what did all of the polls tell you? All the polls said Joe Biden's doing just fine.
Yep.
Right?
That, and he needed a new VP. We cannot run
Okay.
the VP.
But here-
now, all of a sudden, Joe messed up in the debate, and now his VP is now the greatest thing since sliced bread.
But here's the thing we have to take away from this to discern this. Soon as they wanted him out, what did the Democratic Party do? They leaked their internal polls, not all the external
what
polls
everyone
that the
else saw.
media was running. They leaked the real stuff and said, "Oh, on our internals he's losing, but all those externals were saying how good he was, so that's why we got to replace him." Which means that they're still using the media to
but
prop up their
Kavan,
candidate.
were those the real internal polls? Or was that something that they created
Just to get him out.
to make the narrative to
It's
get him
possible.
out?
Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? I don't know. Brian?
There was a coordinated effort to oust the sitting president of the United States.
From his candidacy to be the next, right, to extend his tenure?
There needs to be a word for that. It's coup. I'm being silly.
I was going to use a different word. It started with it started with getting and then an F, but we can't say that on the radio. Anyway.
Well, this O'Keefe Media Group story breaks in the same week that we watched of all programs. We watched 60 Minutes, which is supposed to be the highest journalistic integrity program on television.
Supposedly.
Not only did they edit the answers of the Democratic
they changed some of the
nominee.
answers.
Yes, they edited so that answers to other questions were used to answer questions that weren't asked. That there should not be 60 Minutes as a named television program moving forward if
Agreed.
we had journalistic integrity in this country. You cannot recover from something like that. Can you imagine the outrage if Fox News had done that for a Donald Trump interview? Not to
Again.
mention the fact that no one since Harris has been the nominee, there has not been a journalist on camera that has asked her, asked Mayorkas, asked any of these other mouthpieces for the DNC or cabinet position personnel who for years went on television and said, and I bring up Mayorkas because 2 weeks prior to him to Biden being ousted, he was on MSNBC, I believe,
Saying how sharp his attack
he's
he
as
was.
sharp as attack. No questions have been asked they haven't asked these people, what did you know and when did you know it? The American people need to know that. We've lost the fourth branch of government, and our problems that we face as a nation today, I think, coincides directly with the journalists in this country deciding to pick a side and just being a media outlet for one particular political party. We
Ring the
don't
bell.
know what the story. We don't get the story. We get a story now. But when does it end?
Ring the bell because it's true.
And look, let me blow your mind real quick too. We talk about 60 Minutes. How much playtime does 60 Minutes actually have?
Well, I say we're in hour 2 when we're only, an hour 40, 42, 43, 36, I think
42
was the
minutes
last
is
one.
the average.
Yeah. Yeah.
40. So if you want them to be honest, it should be 42 minutes.
Yeah, but one of the things is not only did they edit, Ed Bradley voiced over her answer because nobody understood what she was saying.
And nobody's understanding what you're saying, so we got to go. That's going to wrap up this week's episode of Implicit Bias. If you missed any of it, go back and find us on all of our socials. Please follow, like, share, and we hope that you have a great weekly whiskey with us. We hope that you have a fantastic rest of your week, and we'll see you in 7 on next week's Implicit Bias.